Hey crafty family, it's me! And today we are in my kitchen. And I really hope, let me check my camera again, just to make sure. I gotta stand on a chair to check my camera. Yeah, you can see pretty good. I hope my big head, my nasty head doesn't get in the way too much. Whew, but we are going to do some cooking, or we're going to try. Actually, we're going to do some baking, not cooking. So, I'm going to try to teach you how to make my special chocolate chip cookies. They're really good. They're not like too much different than regular cookies, but I add some secret ingredients that make them ever soft. They don't ever get hard. You can leave them sit out uncovered for a week and they will still be soft. They might be a little stale, but they'll still be soft. You know what I mean? They can still be stale and soft at the same time. You don't want to do that, but I'm just saying. I'm just saying. So, you can follow the recipe on the back of Nestle's chips, or preferably, I like, stop making noise. I like Ghirardelli. These are yummy. And the only difference in the recipe here is this says a half a teaspoon of salt, which I actually prefer a little better than a teaspoon of salt. So I follow this recipe, but I add a few things, and I'll show you what I add as we go. So first things first, obviously the ingredients are on the back of here, but I'll tell you as we go what I'm doing. You're going to have to deal with the fact that I don't have the greatest lighting. If you saw how I have lighting rigged up in my kitchen, you would laugh at me, because I've got a lamp hanging by its shade above my cabinets. I have my selfie stick duct taped to my open cabinet on the shelf. Like, oh my god, I had to rig it just to do this. My counters are nasty because they're a little stained, but this isn't like, I'm not a cooking show, so tough, just deal with it. Anyway, so let's begin. First things first, get yourself a big bowl, a bowl that you can mix in, because if you have a small bowl, you're going to be pissed off if you start to use a mixer. This is my mixer. I do not have, I wish, and my dream someday is to have the baby pink KitchenAid mixer, the one that's like the big, like, what is it, 4.5 quart or 5 quart KitchenAid mixer. I am a baker. I like to bake. I used to sell my baked goods to restaurants and stuff like that here and there, and I would sell them from my house too, because baking is my thing. I love to bake. I don't like to cook. I can cook pretty good. I just don't like to do it. Baking though, that's my thing. If you've never, I'll have to do a baking, yep, can't speak, where I do my creme brulee. But today we're doing chocolate chip cookies, and my chocolate chip cookies are yummy. Let me just say. Okay, so you're going to soften 2 sticks of butter, and how I usually do that is I open them up like this so they don't stick too much to the package. I put 2 of these in the microwave, and I put it on for 15 seconds, and they're perfect. So there's my softened butter. Okay, you need 2 sticks, which equals 1 cup of butter. Use real butter. I cannot stress this enough. It is important that you use real butter. It doesn't have to be organic, but it has to be real. I like organic butter, but you know, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't really matter. Okay, you're going to mix the butter and the sugar. Now here's where I also fudge the recipe. The recipe, either on the Ghirardelli chips or the Nestle, like I said, they're exactly the same, aside from this one uses half a teaspoon of salt and the Nestle's uses a whole teaspoon. Oh, and also this one says for 2 teaspoons of vanilla, which I completely agree with, and the Nestle's says 1 teaspoon of vanilla. I like 2 teaspoons of vanilla. I've been doing that before I was even using the Ghirardelli recipe. When I was still using the Nestle recipe, I doubled up on the vanilla extract, and it's got to be real vanilla extract, not imitation. Anyway, let's get back to what I was doing. Okay, so it says on here, as well as the Nestle's, to use 3/4 a cup of white sugar and 3/4 a cup of brown sugar packed. Here's where we change things up, and this is one of the keys to keeping the cookies soft. You are going to use, now it doesn't matter what combination and the way you use the sugar, as long as it's 3/4 and 3/4 equals what? A cup and a half, okay? So as long as you got a cup and a half of sugar, it doesn't matter which way you combined it. So I use a 1/2 cup of white sugar. Instead of 3/4, I use a 1/2, okay? And I use a cup of brown sugar. That's right, packed. You pack it down and don't mind the tea stain in the bottom of my cup. So that's 1/2 cup and a cup. So there's your cup and a half of sugar. The brown sugar is the key. Brown sugar is the key to making, is one of the keys, but is probably the most important key to making Eversoft chocolate chip cookies, okay? Now, here's where you're also going to add your vanilla. You're going to add 2 teaspoons of vanilla. I usually just add a tablespoon. Maybe even a little fuller of a tablespoon than I did. I like extra vanilla extract. Nothing wrong with that. And I start to mix these together. My butter is just a little bit still stiff, but it's fine. You don't want your butter to be melted. You want your butter to crumble. This is why you need a deep bowl. Glass is preferred, it's easier. Now I'm going to keep going with this, but do not melt your butter. Under no circumstances do you want your butter to be melted. You just want it softened. If it is melted, it is going to be more like a liquid ingredient. And if it's a liquid ingredient, your cookies are going to be not good, okay? Because you're going to have soggier dough, and you don't want that. You want your butter just slightly softened, but to where it's crumbling up the sugar like this, and then you just work at it until it creams it together, okay? Just citing. It seems like it wouldn't make a difference, but it actually does. There we go. It's also important to scrape your sides down with a spoon. I'm a thorough teacher, so I'm going to just trust me, I'm going to be thorough. This is for somebody who has never made cookies before or wants to know the correct way to do it. I just wish I had a proper mixer because this one's kind of yucky. Now I can lick it because I'm going to be the ones eating these. Nobody else. So, but if you're making them for other people, don't be licking your spoons and putting them back in. I do that because I'm eating them. Okay, so now, the next thing you're going to put in, and here's another weird thing that you're going to put in. You're going to be like, what the hell are you putting that in for, you weirdo? But you got to trust me, okay? Sour cream. Yeah, I know you're probably thinking, what the hell, lady? Sour cream. But yes, you're going to take a heaping spoonful of sour cream. Just a regular kitchen spoon, you know. You're just going to take about that much and put it in. It is another way that, and you won't taste it. It's not going to make any difference in the flavor of your cookie. I promise. Now let me just dump this in the sink. Put this back in the fridge real quick. And then we're going to stir this, mix this in. Then you're also going to put in about a teaspoon to a teaspoon and a half of milk. or a tablespoon, I'm sorry, not teaspoon, tablespoon to a tablespoon and a half of milk, regular old milk. Now anytime that you add extra liquid, and I'm going to consider the sour cream a liquid as well because it basically liquefies, you have to compensate for it somewhere because you don't want your batter to be goopy and yucky. It's a science. It's crazy, but it's a science when you're baking. So I'm going to make up for this later when I add the flour in. I'll let you know, but I'm going to add just a little extra flour to make up for that liquid. You have to, because otherwise the recipe is going to be all off kilter. So whenever you add ingredients to a recipe, or you're like, oh, I'm going to try this or try that, keep in mind that the recipe you're starting out with, because I'm like a tweaker, I tweak recipes until they become my own. Whenever you tweak a recipe, keep in mind that the original recipe is there for a reason. It's got its balance. So you've got to make sure that you're balancing out what you're doing, especially when it comes to things like sauces or doughs and things like that. Because if you add too much wet and don't compensate with some more dry, or if you add too much dry and don't compensate with a little wet, you're going to have a weird balance and things aren't going to work out so well. Okay, so now we're going to add our eggs one at a time. And the best thing to do is to add room temperature eggs. I left mine out for a good half hour before I started. All right, one at a time. I'm going to scrape my sides down a little bit. You want to do that periodically. Even if you have a KitchenAid mixer. Oh, that KitchenAid mixer, if you look it up, the pink one, I think it was like a breast cancer awareness. That's why if you look up a pink mixer, usually you see the hot pink one, the KitchenAid mixer. But if you look up the pink breast cancer awareness one, it's that pale pink. That's really pretty. You need to check that out if you get a chance, because it's pretty. Okay, now I'm going to add the other egg. Egg number 2. Mix that in. Okay. Now here's where we start to add our dry ingredients. And usually you add your dry ingredients all together. So I've got a half a teaspoon of salt. I've got 2 1/4 cup, probably 2 1/2 cups instead of 2 1/4, because I add about a 1/4 cup extra flour to make up for the liquid that we added in. So I'm going to add my half a teaspoon to the flour. I'm going to add, here's another tweak. It calls for a tablespoon, there's like something in there. It calls for a teaspoon. Is it a teaspoon? Let me double check. Make sure. Teaspoon? Yeah, teaspoon of baking soda. I put a teaspoon and 1/4, teaspoon and 1/2 of baking soda. Makes for a fluffier cookie. So we add that. So now we've got all our dry ingredients together. You can, what do I not have anything to mix it with? Hold on. I'm just going to grab a knife and give it a little, you don't really have to do this part, but you can mix it all together so that it goes in. And you just start beating it in. I usually do like maybe a 1/4 cup at a time. And you want to mix it in when the beater is off, so it doesn't fly all over. It's going to fly a little bit anyway, but if the beater's off, you have less chance of it like making a massive mess. And then I'll usually sometimes do this and mix it with the beater so that it doesn't fly all over. I'll scrape it off the sides in a minute. Now, if you have a really crappy mixer, you might not be able to mix it all the way in because obviously it gets thicker and thicker and thicker. I have a Black & Decker, it's pretty powerful, so I can usually mix a lot in. You know, mix with the mixer all the way. A little bit of a mess. And the rest. Now I'm going to mix down the sides. Just to make sure everything gets mixed well. It's good to have a bowl that you could spin. Makes it a little easier, especially if you don't have a KitchenAid mixer like myself. Alright, I made a mess on the floor a little bit. That's okay. Now, my favorite part, and everybody says, you shouldn't do this because the batter's got raw eggs in it, but guess who cares? Not me. I eat it. So, I'm going to take a 2-minute break and clean my mixers off with my tongue. Okay. Now that my beaters are clean, thanks to my tongue. Now, I don't recommend you do that because I don't want to be responsible if anybody says, I got sick from eating that, blah, blah. I've been doing that for 40 years and I've not gotten sick once, so I've gotten sick from other things, but not that. Okay, so now I'm going to add in, it says 2 cups of chips. And this may or may not be 2 cups of chips. I think it might not be quite 2 cups. So I'm going to get my other bag. Hello everyone. Sorry, I'm interjecting in this cookie video because I forgot one of my most important rules that I discovered like probably 2 years ago. Probably the last time I made chocolate chip cookies before this. Hi Tigger, and I thought it'd be better to look at Tigger than me. When I added the chocolate chips, I realized I added too many. I know that the recipe on the back of the bag and everything says 2 cups, but when you're making the cookies that are soft, there's like considered, you know, what you would consider soft batch chocolate chip cookies, don't add as many chocolate chips. Add about 1.5 cups. Because the more chips you add when you're doing the soft batch, because the soft batch don't puff up like the kind that get hard. I say that as if that's bad. They stay, you know, like regular chocolate chip cookies stay soft for like the day or whatever, but then they kind of get that hardness, and the only way to like really soften them is to put them in the microwave for 10 seconds, whereas these, the kind that I'm showing you how to make, stay soft like indefinitely. They will just stay soft. However, if you put too many chocolate chips in them, because of just the nature of the batter, they will kind of be very chocolate chippy. They'll still be soft, but they'll be really chocolate chippy, and they'll kind of flatten out after a little while. And I totally forgot about that because I had discovered that a couple years ago when I was making them. I forgot my own recipe and my own tip to not put quite as many chips in as the bag says. They'll still be perfectly fine. You'll still have a lot of chips, believe me. Mine happened to have an overload of chips. Like when you do the full 2 cups with my recipe, it's just too much. You know what I mean? It's just like, they're still good, don't get me wrong, because if you like a lot of chocolate, you know, and you know what I mean? Like, they're still perfectly good, don't get me wrong. But if you want them to be just a little bit more balanced, then I would do about 1.5 cups of the chocolate chips. So I just wanted to interject with that and show you Tigger because he's being cute. And my mess on the floor, which I always have. These bins on the floor, which I can't seem to get cleaned up. Anyway, okay, back to the video. Bye! And make sure we get up to the 2 cups. There we go. 2 cups. Cheetos. These are semi-sweet. Some people like to use. Now, you can also do half and half with peanut butter chips and chocolate chips, or do all peanut butter chips, or whatever. You can also put walnuts in yours. I don't personally like walnuts in my chocolate chip cookies. So, I'm just going to mix in chocolate chips. 2 cups of chocolate chips. Whoops, and I'm going to drop them on the floor, but I got to pick it up. Because I don't want Tigger to get it. Oh, there it is. Okay, in the garbage. Okay, so now we're going to make sure you mix it real good and get the chips into the bottom. Because you don't want chocolate chips or cookies that don't have chips in them. Now, before you put these in, that would have been the time to preheat your oven to 350. Because once we incorporate all this in and do all that good stuff, now you're going to cover this with some saran wrap, and for just about 5 to 8 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, you're going to put this in the fridge. So cover it, put it in the fridge, and we will be right back. Okay, kids. We've got our batter. I'll save that. We'll cover it. No, maybe not. We've got our batter ready. And what we're going to do is, this is the easiest way to do this. Now, I almost want to insist that you have an air bake sheet. Reason being is they don't burn your cookies and they cook them so perfectly. I cannot say enough about these. I have 3 of them. And I've had them for years, and I absolutely live by these bake sheets for cookies. So I use a tablespoon measuring thing and a small, like, I don't know what kind of spoon this is, but it's smaller than a regular spoon. You can improvise, but I use these 2 things, and they help me put my cookies on the cookie sheet because you want them to be even, pretty much. So I take like a little heaping scoop, and I scoop it out and drop it. And you want it to be like a ball. You don't want it to be flat. You're not going to flatten it out. You want it to be a couple inches apart. And you want it to be like a nice little ball of cookie dough. Looks good enough to pop in your mouth. I love me some cookie dough. I don't like it with the chips in it, believe it or not. I like it. I don't eat the, I like the cookie dough without the chips. That's my favorite part, believe it or not. Like, before I put the chips in it, I usually take a big old spoonful and sit there and eat it. Because I like it without the chips. I don't like the crunchiness. I just like the dough. That's the best part. Anybody else like that? Because I'm crazy like that. So I usually can get like 4 rows of 4 cookies each. So what's 4 times 4? 16. Yeah, 16? Yeah. So I get like 16 cookies per thing. So a little more than a dozen. And then I just went right before these are done in the oven, because you're going to put them in for 10 minutes. And at 10 minutes, you're going to watch them. You're going to stand there like a hawk, because they're not going to likely be done at 10 minutes. But at 10 minutes, they usually, you can start your other cookie sheet and get that ready, because I have obviously extra ones. But at 10 minutes, I usually can start it and get, you know, a couple of the cookies on it, and then I'll look in there and see that they're done, you know what I mean? Because usually 11 minutes, 12, 13 minutes max. I'll show you what they look like when I pull them out of the oven. They should not be golden brown. Well, I mean, they should be golden, but not brown. You're going to cook them. They're going to cook all the way through. They're just not going to be overcooked. You want them to be just cooked, and that's it. You don't want to, you know, you don't want them to be like cooked so much that they've got brown on them, really. You'll get a feel for it. Okay, so I've got my 16 cookies. That's what I call a dozen. I'm going to pop these in the oven on the center rack, and I'm going to come back in about 10 to 12 minutes, and we'll have some beautiful cookies. So I'll be right back. Okay, so we are at 10 minutes, and as you can see, they're still quite light. So don't mind my dirty oven. So we're going to check back in about another minute. Tigger decided he wants to do some tricks. While we're waiting for cookies, come here. Come over here. You're all groomed. You're showing off how pretty you are. Yeah. Did Mommy make you look pretty? Can you sit pretty? He says, not on the wood floor, Mom. I slip. Come on, sit pretty. Come on. You gonna sit pretty for Mommy? No? What are you doing? You wanting some cookies? Yeah, you want your kind of cookies, but these are Mommy's cookies. You can't have these cookies. Yeah, you smell it on my hands too, huh? You're like, you're making cookies, lady. Are you cute? Do you want some? Do you want some cookies? Oh, yeah, you ain't getting any. Let me check on the cookies again. Oh, they're good. They're good right there. I think. Let me see. Let me make sure because I can't see in this light. Yep. Yeah, they're good. They're good. To where they're just getting a little color around the outside. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Alright, let me bring these over here. Yep. I hope you can see. I know that I don't have the greatest lighting right now. But as you can see, they've got just a hint of color around the edge. That's all they should have. They should look like almost look like they're not done in the center, but they are. They should just have a little hint of color around the edge. And like, see how a little bit of color around the edge, and that's it. And then you pull them out, and they're perfect. And they're not like the big puffy cookies, because whenever you're doing because some people can make them and they're real puffy, but usually when they're real puffy, that means that they're the kinds that get hard really easily, and they're not really the stay soft cookies. Because they usually have a lot more flour in them so that they're puffier, but if it has that much more flour in them, that usually means they're going to harden quicker, so they're not going to stay nice and soft. So they may not look like the most puffy cookies, but they are very yummy. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I've got this pan under here real quick, and that has my it's just an old like broiling pan or whatever, and it's got my cookie cooling rack in it, So in a few seconds, I'm going to take these cookies off, put them on the cooling rack for a little while, and they will be good to go. Yummy in the tummy. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and you will give my special cookie recipe a try because you will love it. They are amazing. And yeah, if you have any questions, please put them below. I don't know anything about different altitudes and all that stuff, so if you have any issues with things like that, and I can't, you know, don't come to me screaming if yours don't come out right. I can't tell you. The only thing I can tell you is if your baking soda isn't fresh and your flour's not fresh and your sugar's not fresh, it all makes a difference. So just make sure that you have fresh ingredients and that you're not using like stale, outdated stuff, especially the baking soda, because that does make a difference. Anyway, make sure you give this a thumbs up and share this video if you wouldn't mind. I'd appreciate it. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. And every now and again, we're going to do some more baking videos. Yeah. And I will talk to you guys later. I'm going to eat my cookies now. Make sure you do what you love and love what you do and be nice to people. I'll talk to you later. Bye.